because my heart's racing, you know, and that's when I see the back of the thing's head just like wandering through that vegetation. And then when I turn and look, that's when he hands me the Whiffle ball bat. And then he's like, okay, we got to do this, you know, like I have a cross on my stick, the Lord will protect us. And then he just takes off down the hill. And I was like, all right. And then that's when I turn and I don't see him, you know, and it's just gone, like just gone.
All right, welcome back to Blurry Creatures. We've had some wild shows lately.
True, we have.
We're on text threads with Tim Alberino. We're going to be doing an event in Nashville, and we talked to Micah about seeing angels.
Talked to Doug Hamp about Nephilim and end times.
It just gets blurrier.
All that stuff's coming down the pipe.
I want to say this, Luke, that like we had multiple members encounters. We had a member talk about a rake, and the member talk about the little people, and a member was friends with Micah. So the cool thing about the members space, if you want to join the members, is you get access to, you know, us in the community, and you can make recommendations. And all I have to say is the members really influenced the show as of lately. So
yeah, you know, you get to talk to the legendary, the incomparable Dr. Jed Burton, who frequents the members only Facebook, and even guys like our friend Ryan Baird, who helped us track down an essay about a temple in Tennessee. We've got a great community of people that are, you know, very open-minded, very interested in asking the weird questions and the hard questions. And that's why we're here, Nate. We just ask questions. A couple dummies asking questions. I think we say this every episode.
Yeah.
Just trying to find out what, you know, where the truth is, and talk about some of the things people don't want to talk about, or makes them uncomfortable. And that's where we are. I mean, this isn't this isn't a theology podcast.
Yeah, we get ourselves into trouble a little bit because it's like, I mean, obviously you develop a relationship with whoever's podcasting, and you get to know them from a distance in your own way. I've listened to podcasts, and you develop kind of a para, what is it called? A para something relationship?
Paranormal?
Yeah.
The history of our Earth is so different from what we can imagine.
The Smithsonian, that if they found out about a large skeleton somewhere, was to go get it.
I'm going to assume at least one person is right, because if one person's right, it busts the paradigm.
It all goes back to the fallen cherub. And the problem with the modern day church, they have a very truncated view of the supernatural.
This backdrop that's just pregnant with all kinds of meaning associated with this Mount Hermon event.
Welcome to Blurry Creatures.
And this guy defects from the kingdom. That's a big deal.
Did you eat some beans and get ready for this one?
Not only did I eat beans, I brought my hat. So it is I, the Bean Wizard.
Yes. Welcome to Blurry Creatures, Justin. Straight out of TikTok as the Bean Wizard.
That's right. Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Tell us about it, because some of us, including me, don't have TikTok, but I do have Google, so I looked you up. You have your shirt off in a lot of videos, so I don't think this is all weird that you have your shirt off at this point. So I'm feeling like Nate needs to take his off as well. It's a little cold. It's a little cold in my house. I'm gonna.
I might.
This is great. Well, tell us about the Bean Wizard.
Yeah, so my wife and I, we started dating. She was really good at TikTok. She's really funny. So we were married, and it was in the spring of last year, and we opened up our dumpster, and there were raccoons, like 3 of them just chilling in there. And, you know, they look at me with these rabbit eyes, and I'm like, oh, so I run away, and it was like raining, and I find the stick, and I'm hiking up the hill, and I'm like walking, I'm like, it is I, the Bean Wizard. Don't be wary, the raccoons will be fine. You know, something to that effect. And it just took off. Well, even before that, we had a video where I'm literally in my underwear and I asked my wife if she wants some beans, and that hit like 27 million views on TikTok. And
what?
Yeah, no, not even kidding. You know, the drummer of Motley Crue, Tommy Lee.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah. His wife commented on her video. Like, it's crazy. Like, all these people just jumped on. They're like, oh my word, he looks so funny. And it just took off.
You have to do a voice cameo now. You have to say, welcome to Blurry Creatures. And
so you can go in the intro.
Okay.
In your bean voice.
Welcome to Blurry Creatures. It is I, the Bean Wizard.
Yes.
This is great. This is already tracking to be one of my favorite episodes we've done.
Last episode we did with Judd Burton sang "The Lonely Mountain" from Tolkien.
Oh my word!
Yeah, Dr. Judd sang for us, dude. So there's a high bar. There's a very high bar, Justin.
So we have Dr. Judd singing Tolkien songs, and now we have the Bean Wizard on. I mean, it's just you have 600,000 followers now.
Yeah, we're pretty close to it. We have 590,000 followers.
Dang. That's what we need to do, Luke.
It's all suitable for work content. This isn't like
this is I mean, there's one where I'm literally in our bedroom and I'm fighting with a sword, and it's like 2 a.m. and I'm in my underwear. But you know, it's all covered up. There's nothing.
It's good. This is a family show, so I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
I mean, exactly. there's a few ones where I do swear, but not like bad.
You and your wife look like you have a lot of fun, and I thought this would be a fun episode to do.
Yeah, we do.
You guys you put out that vibe, and I think that's a big part of life. It's just playing, having fun.
It's amazing because she's incredible. She's not only is she beautiful, she is so funny and just really like caring and kind. And she just really takes care of us as a family. And I'm just really blessed to have her as a wife. And I love her deeply. And the biggest thing is that these are all her ideas. Like, I'm just a conduit of her. So like, you know, I think I should get off and she should come on and talk, you know, like that's literally it is. It's just what she does. And she just is like the brains behind it all. Like, I'll be like, hey, we should do this in a video. And it'll bomb. And then she's like, why don't we do this? And it like goes viral. And I'm like, that's incredible. Like, how do you know these things? You know? And it's a wonderful thing. And so we really feed off of each other too. You know, it's really good. I'm happy. I'm very happy.
Well, dude, we love it, man. Yeah. It's you just get a vibe, and we get a lot of people who have experiences, and yours sounded like straight out of like the Goonies, you and your buddy.
Oh yeah.
Were kids riding your BMXs or something?
Yeah. No. Yeah. So I'll go into it. So yeah.
Yeah. Wait. Before we get into your story that sounds like rad from the 80s, Nate, can we just properly do this with?
Well, his story is about Bigfoot.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So let's ask
Justin.
him what he. Yes.
The bean in your Bean Wizard voice. What are your thoughts on Bigfoot? Give it to us.
My thoughts on Bigfoot. I believe that he is an inherently interdimensional creature that can be used by other beings. Some may be used for good, other for malice intentions, but don't be wary. I do believe that if they are seen, they are very, very, very terrifying.
Yeah.
Dude, I like the bean and beans there. That's
yeah.
There's a blurry line.
Yeah, right.
there's. No,
sometimes our show gets real serious, Justin. So it's fun to like.
Yeah.
The content is great. The content is serious, but sometimes it's good to laugh.
It is. I'm going to be honest with you guys. So even before I go into my story, I just want to thank you two, first of all, because you guys are amazing, and you've really actually like pushed me in my faith to like look a little deeper and be like, okay, like what is this really about? You know, I've had all these questions, and you know, of course, when I get to the story, it'll make more sense. But I've had a lot of questions as to why. I didn't really think that others thought like I did who were believers. And, you know, I find the show and I'm just like blown away. I listened to like the first like 50 episodes, like within 2 weeks, because I was doing roadside crew work. I was like flipping signs from slow to stop. And so I was just out there just like pumping out episodes. And there were times where I was like, oh my gosh, like I would get chills, I'd cry, I'd laugh. They're like, what's wrong with this guy? Is he okay? Like, and I was just like, the blurry creatures, man, the blurry creatures,
That's awesome.
It is.
Surprised you can still tolerate our voices there in real time.
I love your voices in real time. Smooth and silky.
That's right, baby. That's right. Those dulcet tones, Nathan.
I know. We got to. I can do a Yoda. That's the only voice I can do. Like
I like just your normal voice, Nate. If we're being honest.
All right.
And sometimes your excited voice when you go up an octave and you're just you're really juicing hard. That's
it does.
I like that one as well.
The juice is what keeps him going, man.
Dude, he lives for the juice, Justin. This is the truth. Yeah. He does.
Thanks, Justin. Justin, that was straight from your heart. Yeah, and I appreciate it.
We totally appreciate that.
I meant it.
I did too.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing that happens here. I know Nate and I have said it 100, maybe now 1,000 times, but like, I don't think we ever really set out to do whatever it is we're doing now. I don't know. I was telling somebody this yesterday, Nate, and I was having coffee with my buddy Caleb, and we were talking. He was asking about the podcast because he wasn't really familiar, and I was telling him that like really what happened is that for my end, Nate, I had it on my list last year that I wanted to do a podcast again, and then for whatever reason, the Twitter stars aligned, and we talked about Bigfoot, and then here we are now, about a year later. I don't know how much time has it been. More than a year? We're looking at 2 years. So maybe I'm not. That wasn't last year before, because everything seems the same. The last 2 years seem like 10 because this world's upside down. But like it's wild because it was just I kind of just wanted this creative outlet, and I'd known Nate in our circles from 15 years ago, probably, right? Like just all the Sherwood and and blurry lines crossed and here we are, and it's funny you say that because it's been really, I think, and we talk about this a lot, but it's been encouraging for like my faith too to dive into these things, like
for sure,
because I think a lot of people are curious. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't make a lot of sense, and we're just a couple dummies asking questions and asking for stories, and that's and here we are, and you've got a story, man, and we're happy to have you, man. It's great to have you on the show.
I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, Justin. Did you get to tell us your proper thoughts on Bigfoot, or did it?
Oh no! So like for me, like I definitely believe that it's real. For me, like what I think it can be like a both. I remember in some of your podcasts you've had people say like they think it's either one thing or the other thing or both, and I fall on the lines of it's both. I think it's a creature that is something that we haven't discovered yet, and I also think it is an interdimensional being that can be used, that comes in and out, because I've listened to a lot of other stuff too, where they talk about seeing Bigfoot and then just it's gone, and that's like, okay, what the heck? Like, what? That's wild. Like, and that's kind of how my story is a little bit. And it just, it makes sense because I have no other explanation for it, Yeah, I think it's real. It has to be, there's so much out there that we don't know about, and it's just, why not, and like there are creatures that we've never seen before, but like what is it in the rainforest? They find like, I think it's like hundreds of new species every day, because the things are just getting unearthed. So why isn't it far-fetched for Bigfoot?
Yeah, I like what you're saying though. Yes, and is an interesting answer, and like not, and I think it's a good answer in some ways too, because we have all the physical evidence that would take it away from being like something maybe fully supernatural. Nate, we haven't talked about this in a hot minute, but we walked through the first 15 episodes or so. We're all about Bigfoot, and you get guys like Dr. Meldrum, who collects all of this physical evidence. So there's this interaction with the physical world, but there's also all the weird stuff like disappearing and people shooting it with a shotgun and it not being there, and then you get all that weird, which I think what the Bigfoot community calls like the woo, right? Is that right, Nate?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like that one guy who had the Sierra sounds you guys had on here, and he was uber spiritual, and he said like, I do think it is this, and I'd never really thought of that before, and I was like, yeah. And the more I listen, the more I'm like, it can be both, you know?
Yeah. If you listen to enough Bigfoot stories over time, you can't help but expand your paradigm of what you think it is.
Exactly.
And I think if you hop in, there's a lot of Bigfoot purists. It's really weird.
It is.
There's a lot of purists in any niche belief or market. There are those groups of purists who want it to be, it's just a very simple explanation. This is what it is.
Yeah. They want it to be black or white, no gray. And I think that they're in a world today that there can be gray in some areas, and I definitely think the cryptozoology world is a very gray area, and I think it's okay. And so I think for those who are like, it's both, I think that's a good place to be, as long as you're not discrediting it, because I just think there's so much, there's so many accounts and there's so much there that you can't say it's not real. It's funny. My dad was a singer, and he recorded a CD when I was 7, and he sang a song on there about Bigfoot not being real and aliens, and I just think about that now. And I asked him, I was like, what do you think about it? He's like, I don't know, maybe, and so it's as the years gone on, even him, he's come to the fact that, hey, it might be, so.
Yeah. Well, give us a little rundown of your story. You're a kid, and you, not only do you have thoughts on Bigfoot, you basically seen the thing.
Yeah. So where I was living at the time, I lived in a town called Jaffrey, and Jaffrey is famous for two things. Their wonderful Kimball's ice cream. Shout out to Kimball's, because their Kimball's ice cream has the fat content is the same amount of fat content that is found in a pound of bacon, and they're second smallest scoops of ice cream. So just the most rich, creamy ice cream you've ever had. And then also Mount Monadnock is located in Jaffrey as well. And it is the second most climbed mountain. And that mountain, the first mountain is a mountain in Fuji, I think, a Japan one for a pilgrimage. But they're always combating for first because they're so climbed. And so living in that, deep woods, area that was just super dense, you got granite everywhere. We're the granite state, you grow up around woods. And so I had a best friend who had just moved up the road, and, I was kind of just your weird kid. I didn't really have a lot of friends, and he was my first real friend. And so we would just hang out all the time. And I go up to his house, and we're outside playing, and, we would pretend, this is when Lord of the Rings was kind of big. So we're pretending that the trees are orcs, and we're just hacking and slashing at trees. And next thing you know, we just hear and he looks, and he just takes off running, and for a 11, I think I was either 11 or 10. I was a pretty big kid, so I couldn't haul like he could, but I saw him take off, and I just ran. And we're climbing up this hill, and it's it's one of those scenes in the movies where you keep slipping and you're just terrified of whatever. And so we look back, and I just see this thing on two legs just walking through the vegetation, and it's wild. And I'm like, what is that? What is that? And next thing I know, he hands me this plastic wiffle ball bat, and he has a stick with a cross on it, and he's like, the Lord will protect us. And full fledged, he runs down the hill, and I fall right after him. We never found the thing, and so all I can remember it as clear as day. It was just spreading the leaves apart, and it was something in my mind made me look away, because it was that's unnatural, and it was a subconscious thing too, because I had no idea, and I'd never seen it. And for the longest time, I was was that a bear? And I was there's no way that bears can walk on two legs, but not for that long, and the more I thought about it, it was the vegetation I was walking through was probably 6 feet high. We were up on a ledge that was probably 18 feet that would go down into a little ravine. And it was just super at ease, just walking, a slow lumbered walk. And so then the more that I listened to it, but stories about people who had seen it, I was I definitely think that I saw something, And then as I got older, come to find out, there were sightings of a white Sasquatch in the area, right where I lived. My other neighbor, he would go out and he would run every morning, and he said he saw something just tracking him through the woods. So much so that the local guys in the high school, they named their band Jaff Squatch, and they played the talent show, so like living in this area of town, you have like these stories, all within like, it was, the lead band member, he lived like, I want to say probably like, not even half a mile away from me. My neighbor lived half a mile. So we had this little triangle of like a possibility of a Sasquatchural community living there, but it was just crazy, and so it was a profound moment that I have no explanation for other than that, something that was the size of a man just walking like it was not a man, but it was walking. It was black, coarse, dark hair, and it was daylight, and it wasn't running away. It wasn't like darting off like a bear would. It was just
walking towards you?
No, walking away from us. Like, and I because my friend saw it and he took off, and he told me when we got to these, like, I just saw something. I was like, what? And we both look, and then that's when we saw it, and so those big eyes, that childlike fear, you're just like, oh man. But then also that bravery that, that young boys have to go after it is like,
you got onward Christian soldiers, right?
Yeah.
We
got the stick of the Lord,
I spent a lot of time with wiffle ball bats as a kid, so I know those things are.
Yeah.
Those things will save your life, Luke.
They also hurt real good if you get hit with one. I've been on the receiving end of being hit with a wiffle ball bat a few times. That's
but it's so funny.
It's a stinger.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's crazy because I think a lot of times, as a kid, you don't have any context for what you're seeing, and then later when you get older, the same thing happened to me. I saw a creature as a kid, and when I got older, I was like, oh, I didn't make that up, and I didn't. That happened because I heard other people describing the same thing, very similar to what you just said.
Yeah.
And you're just too young to have any awareness.
Yeah.
Of what's happening to you. So yeah, of course you're going to tell yourself it's a bear because that's really all you know. And then later on you're like, no, that wasn't that.
But then right after that, I got launched into like mysteries, like what is out there, and I would just like go. I remember it being like younger and just walking to my library and picking up books that were just talking about like Bigfoot. I would flip through and find them, the National Geographic Kids, like Bigfoot special ones or the Mysterious Creatures one. And I would just look through it, and it had the, that infamous Peggy one, and then I would go home and my dad would be flipping through the channels and that would pop on. I'm like, whoa, wait, just let's see this for a second, and we would watch it, and that's when I saw the footage of Peggy just walking and, slowly turning over her shoulder and then going off. And that like shook me because I was like, oh, now that I think about it, it was probably because that's what I saw, my mind was like recognizing it and being like, whoa, like you've seen that before, but you don't know what it was until now, but you don't know how to like process it,
Yeah. And it's jet black when you see it. Is it in the shadows or is there any sunlight hitting it?
It is broad daylight. It literally looked like a scene. So how it was set up is, so he lived on a cul-de-sac. And so I would literally bike up these two massive hills. I'd walk up them, if we're being real. And then I would go down the last hill on my bike and I would just go right up to his house and pop in. I was like, they had 4 kids. I was like their 5th one. We were super involved. Like, we're still best friends. We've been best friends for 19, 20 years almost. I would just go over there all the time. And so he lived on this incline that would go down into these woods that were just like magical. I don't even know how to describe it, but to like somebody who is like a newfound best friend, not really goes outside, because I was kind of a nerdy kid, I was like one of those who, would cry a lot at certain things because they weren't going my way. I was sensitive, emotional, and there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Nothing at all. That's how Nate was. Is, I should say. Yeah, there is no, yeah. Nate's always been an emo kid.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
I delved in the early 2000s, but mostly Nate's. Dude, you don't change your stripes.
Once in an emo band, always in an emo band.
Good. I'm waiting for you to brush the eyeliner out for one of these interviews.
I haven't started a Sasquatch band yet, though.
You need to.
I mean, Jeff Squatch broke up, so if you want to take it, you sure can.
No, I love it though. This sounds like, I mean, if you just put this back a few decades, this is like,
yeah,
this is like the 80s golden moment. You got, you're hanging out with your best friend. He's got a backyard in the woods. And you think his Sasquatch is probably coming up and watching him and his family and.
Okay. So the way that, like I was saying, so the incline you would go down and it was like this like swamp, and we would do this thing where we would just island hop. So we'd find these dry islands in the swamp and we'd hop to them, and we'd find our staffs. And that was like the best thing, because we'd find these sticks and we'd just run through the woods with them. And that was like our domain. And so we were just down there, and literally where the vegetation was it was all like, pine needles and leaves. And then this one super open, heavy vegetational spot. And then that's where we started walking, and it was walking away from us.
How long do you think that whole encounter was?
It was probably, I want to say it was probably like 20 seconds, honestly, because I think he saw more than I did, but I've never talked to him about it, which is funny and ironic, because I didn't really know what to think about it, and he wasn't really into that stuff. And excuse me. Yeah. It was just, we were just playing, and I think he saw something and he took off running. That's why he ran so fast. And then I took off after him, and it probably lasted 20 seconds, a good 15 of that is me trying to climb that hill as fast as I can. Then the next 5 is me looking over my shoulder, and seeing that last glimpse of that jet blackness, and then him just handing me those sticks and us going back down. It's like, it was so fast, but it just imprints on you. It's something that just carries you for a lifetime. Like I said, I'm 31. This was almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember, I can close my eyes and I can picture it vividly.
How tall do you think the thing was?
I want to say, so have you guys been watching the new Book of Boba?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay. No. Okay. Great show. But so there's this character in there, and he's a Wookiee, and it's like this dark black Wookiee. And that's what it looked like. It was just jet black hair. I would probably say it was anywhere between 6'7" to 7 feet. The vegetation, we had to literally just when we used our swords or staffs, we would just cut it down. It was towering over us. It felt like, it was probably a good, I want to say anywhere between 4 to 5 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And when we got up to that hill and the overlook of it, it was just walking through it, you wade through water.
So you could see it inside the marsh.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. So the swamp was there, and then that vegetation, because there was so much water there, it would grow, and the sunlight hit it perfectly. So when you had asked if it was dark or shadow, no, it was just bright as day. It was a crisp, spring day, the weekend, it was in the afternoon, probably around right after lunchtime. And there was no way that it could be a shadow or anything else, and it was just walking through the vegetation like it was nothing. And then,
did you see its face?
No, I just saw the back of its head.
Did you just smell anything? Because sometimes people say they smell stuff.
So I didn't smell anything at all. I just, from what I saw in my friend's eyes, I knew that it was unnatural. Now that I look back at it and I remember his face, his mouth, he's seen stuff, his mouth dropped though, and it was like one of those where, you just take off for fear of your life.
And then you chased after it, though. That doesn't happen in the story very much.
No, and I don't know why we did. He did. I kind of I kind of slid down the hill on my butt. Yeah. Well, we had also done this thing where we became blood brothers that summer too, and so we didn't do the whole cutting of hands. We picked a scab and then exchanged blood on that, And so we have this bond, and I was okay, I grew up in a family. I only have 2 sisters, and I always wanted a brother, and he was that to me. And So he goes down. I'm like, let's do this. Plus he's my only best friend. So if anything happens to him, I'm out of best friend. And so I was like, well, where he goes, I go, I guess. And we just followed him. And then, that's where that whole interdimensional thing comes from, because it was gone. He grew up in a family of hunters and trackers, and he tried tracking the thing, and nothing.
Just to get the full story, so you like run up the hill initially, and you said you were slipping as you're going up the hill.
Yeah.
And then he looks at you, hands you the wiffle ball bat, and then you go back at it. Can you see it at the moment you turn back around and then you go back down the hill?
Yeah. So when I turn and look over my shoulder, because I'm facing him and he's looking behind me and my back's to the creature, right? And that's when he takes off, because I can't see anything at this point. I run up the hill, fall down, trying to get up, whatever. And then I look over when I get to the top, because my heart's racing. And that's when I see the back of the thing's head just like wandering through that vegetation. And then when I turn and look, that's when he hands me the wiffle ball bat. And then he's like, okay, we got to do this. Like, I have a cross on my stake. The Lord will protect us. And then he just takes off down the hill. And I was like, all right. And then that's when I turn and I don't see him, and it's just gone, like just gone, And so we run through that, and then we go out to the open. And then, so past that vegetation, there was like a trail that went, and then just open woods, like perfect hunting grounds, basically. And nothing whatsoever. And
wow. This is wild.
So wild.
No footprints or anything?
Nothing. You would think because of the vegetation and it was a little wet there and stuff, I just think it was newly spring, there would be mud and stuff, but it was just covered by the pine needles, because it was just one of those old ancient forest type things. And there's just so much, and we didn't get any footprints. We saw the broken down parts of it and whatnot, but like, that was about it. We followed that little trail, because there was only like a little part that he had gone through.
No broken trees or upside down trees.
Nothing. We didn't even hear any of the, when they bang the sticks together to let them know they're there, like, nothing like that.
No map moneymaker.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it does have a lot of this. You were talking about granite and mountains and forest and water.
Yeah.
This is like the missing 411 ingredients.
Woodsy.
Yeah. No, super woodsy. Like, so.
Were there rocks around that they could walk on?
No. So it wasn't a lot of rocks there. There were some big rocks that we had found, because we spent like the next summers of our lives just exploring that place. And that was super fun. That was like a super amazing part of my childhood, is just going out and just doing that.
Yeah. You guys had the Calvin and Hobbes, woods in your backyard.
Oh, for real. It was,
it's awesome.
It was amazing. I think that, if any kid should have an opportunity like that, they should take it, because it's awesome. And it helped. I think it helped us and helped me just really like become more of who I was, especially because I love exploring. I love like mysteries and stuff like that. And, if I had been, just sitting in my, basement all summer long playing Legos, and whatnot, like, not that that's bad. I still play Legos, but, what would that look like? I think
that was the birth of the wizard.
Oh yeah, for sure it was.
You just traded Legos for beans.
I did, and a cow.
Yes.
So I guess the question is, like, as a kid, if you have that terrifying experience, you guys has your head on a swivel every time you go back out in the woods from that point on?
No, not at all.
Really?
Yeah. So the only time that I felt that impending sense, what I had felt that day, and was when it was, I think, like either one winter after that, we had gone sledding and we got lost, because we went so deep into the woods, we got lost, and it was getting dark. and I was just like, oh man, like, what are we going to do? And I just remember like my friend's face, seeing that thing, knowing that there might be bears in there, and like what I thought was a bear, was around there and stuff. That was like the only time, but since then, no, I haven't, I don't really feel that.
Yeah. Oftentimes people see the Bigfoot creature and they kind of have a bad experience, and then it kind of ruins their space. Yeah. Hunters will quit hunting, and people will never go back into the woods again because they have this terrifying encounter. So of all the encounters, it sounds like a good one, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because it's not something that left an emotional scar on you.
No.
Trauma.
I think the thing is that, what was it doing? That's what I want to know. And was it just knowing that we weren't a threat, or was it just like knowing that it didn't want to be bothered with us? Like, it's just so, I just think about that, because what was it doing there? Like, well, why New Hampshire of all the places? And to me, it's just crazy because, you live in a small town, you hear things here and there, but like, as you get older, you realize like where I live is just wild. I actually live not even like 6 minutes away from a lake called Dublin Lake, which is 100 feet deep. And there's a creature that lives in there, that there's a legend of this diver back in, I want to say, the early 80s. He went diving, he got separated, and this thing took him under this caverns, and he was missing for 3 days, and he comes up out of the water, and these kids find him wandering the woods naked and just slurring his words, crazy, lost his mind. And this is literally 5 minutes away from where I live. And it's this lake, I could swim across it. It's not even that big, but it's 100 feet deep. Like, it's wild. It's so crazy because I'm surrounded by these things that I had no idea about, and so like, credit to Blurry Creatures for making me be like, okay, like, if people are like thinking like this, then what am I surrounded by?
Yeah, it makes you wonder, like, a lot of these places, they have concentration of creatures and other things, and like, there could be some sort of, were some of the other ancient mound builders in the area, who knows? Who knows what, there could be something buried there. Yeah. You never know. Like,
it makes you think, like, why and what came before all this, and what transpired in this land before civilization. Was there
before the bean wizard?
Yeah, before the bean wizard. Before the bean era of time. BE, before bean wizard, whatever. Like, or BW. But it boggles my mind. Like, my wife, she is from a town further near Vermont. There's a place called Bells Falls, Vermont, and they have found, and there's a river that runs through called the Connecticut River, and in that river they found pictographs of ancient murals of drawings on these massive rocks. And you can literally go walk there. I've seen them with my own eyes. When I was asking for my wife's hand in marriage, I took her father out magnet fishing, and we went down there and I saw them. And I was just like, oh my, like, they're literally right there. Like, you can drive by them, and they're these ancient drawings on these rocks.
Did you add a Justin Loves Hope up there?
I should have. I should have done that. Ironically, actually, so my best friend's name is Rob. When he and I, we one day, we woke up Saturday at 7 a.m. and we took this trail that went all the way down through the woods, and we went so far into the woods, and we found this cathedral of trees that like bended over. It was magical. It was like something out of Lord of the Rings, and they were just like creating this canopy. And then we carved our names into one tree. And then we went back like 5 years later because he was moving to California for a little bit, and we found it, and the tree was dead. And, he said something really like, emo-ish. And he was like, I guess that means our childhood is dead too. It's just like,
Dude, I love it. I love hearing your story because, like, I had one of those golden childhood.
Yeah.
We grew up with my buddy who I grew up with across the street. We're still friends. He called me right before this episode started, actually.
That's amazing.
And we've been friends since he was 3. And I know what that's like, and there's something about that nostalgia. And you go out, you have the woods in your backyard, you see this monster creature. I mean, you really can't ask for anything better as a kid in a childhood experience. I mean,
no.
And then you get to go out for the rest of your days as a kid and try to relive that magical experience of seeing that creature.
That's so interesting that you say that, because like looking back at it now, I think that was like a back thought in our minds, like, hey, if we go out here, we might see this again. We never spoke about it to each other, but I think that was what we were trying to do, because it was just something that we just wanted an explanation for.
And did you hear anybody else in the area have any, like, I know you said there was like all the other legends in town, and there was the band, and but no one else, no parents. I mean, you didn't, no parents telling any stories. I mean, obviously this thing's close to your house. So
no,
it makes you wonder.
No, nothing. I mean, nothing that I heard of other than those other 3 accounts, and I mean, that could be because like Northerners, and especially New Hampshireites and whatnot, like, we're pretty rough and gruff people for the most part. I'm not into that category because I'm just a big softie, and I have no issue with that at all, because, I think it's a good thing. But, the average person that lives up here is kind of rough and gruff, and anything out of the ordinary that's not something that they're used to, they're not going to talk about it,
Any like any missing people or anything, like people going missing in that area when you were a kid?
Not that I know of. I'm trying to.
Okay. There's no mean ones there.
No, there's no mean ones there, because that was something like I definitely heard of. Yeah, that we know of, that I heard on your show, where you guys were talking to somebody. I think it was that Canadian guy who was living in the bush. And
Tom Seward.
That's one of my favorite episodes. That's like top 5 for me, because there's that poem that he wrote in the beginning that he talks in. I was like, oh my word. I that was one of the moments I teared up. Actually, that podcast, I teared up because he just was so pure about it. It was amazing. But him talking about them being more northern and how they're nicer, and then if you get south, they get rougher. And I think us being up here, is definitely.
They're just making syrup and climbing trees.
They are,
right?
They are. They're making syrup and trying to get
eating mushrooms,
ice cream. Yeah, and beans.
Lots of beans.
Lots of beans.
Lots of beans.
Well, Justin, dude, thanks for thanks for telling us your story, man. Like,
no problem.
It sounds like a golden childhood moment, man.
Oh yeah, it was beautiful for sure. I loved it. I loved it.
And you gotta head to Dublin Lake and see if you can find the bottom, and call us back. We'll see how that.
Oh, I will. Yeah, they've sent people out there, and they dive. Like, we see dive teams when we're driving by, like 3 or 4 days out of the week in the summer. They're looking. They're
looking for Nessie.
Yeah,
makes you wonder. They have like underwater caverns or something. Go down and hang out in.
Nate, do you remember the stuff like from where we grew up, like about Lake Tahoe, how there's supposedly an underwater connection? Have you heard that whole thing about how there's like they believe there's an underwater connection to, I forget where to, but supposedly there's stuff under the thermocline. And
I think it's so fascinating that, kids grow up in these areas. And now you get older, and now we have all this just explosion of information, podcasts, people can tell stories.
Yeah.
And you're like, dang it, these things are real, and they were in my backyard, and I was just a kid out there, and nobody told me.
Yeah.
It's kind of messed up in a way that parents have no idea. Their kids are out playing in the woods. I mean, were there a lot of kids in the woods, or was it just kind of you guys?
No, I mean, if you're in New Hampshire, like that's what you do, especially in like the 90s, the millennial, of us, like. I had another friend who grew up in Harrisville, which is one of the oldest towns in New Hampshire. And we would literally run around the town at nighttime in the summer, because that's what we did, and we'd go through the woods. We'd played like massive, like, hide and seek games, in the woods. Like, that's what you did. We would pack our bags, go on excursions, like it was, a lot of kids just spent time outdoors. Yeah.
Well, Justin, tell our listeners where you can in your Bean Wizard voice, give us a little plug your.
Dude, you don't have to do it in the voice if you don't.
You can do it. You got to do it.
I will say this. I'm going to shout out to King Harold Carver. You are a faithful and loyal subject. Thank you. Yeah, that's just a friend. His name is Harold, and he watches you guys, and we talk about your podcast. So once he hears that, he's gonna freak out, and I just had to put that in there for him.
By all means.
But yeah, no, you can find us at Bean Wizard Official on TikTok, same as Instagram. Also on YouTube. We're also going to be doing some merch here pretty soon, so that's really cool. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Kind of just a little low key plug, nothing too big.
Nothing too crazy.
Well, we'll have to put Luke in a Squatch suit and do an episode. Do a Vine.
Yeah, or TikTok. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let me know. Let me know when you start selling those Bean Wizard hats. I mean, I could make my own here. I got some foil, but I was thinking, man, if it's official, I need an official one.
We literally have So what we did is we have these hats that we just roll out and we put them in picture frames, and I write you a message. It's like, oh, a jubilation! Thank you for like something like that, and we send them out to people. We've sold like 25 of them. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh, it's incredible.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go indeed.
We'll definitely do that for you guys. That'd be amazing. I'd love to see it.
Yeah. You gotta get Bigfoot in an official video now.
Oh yeah.
You're out there.
I have
it's gonna happen.
For sure. That's so amazing. But wow.
I love it. Well,
yeah.
Well, thanks, Justin. Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for the kind words.
Yeah. Thank you guys. I want to encourage you guys too. Like, you guys are amazing. I just want to thank you. I know that it can get hard, and it's definitely something that isn't easy, but I really appreciate both of your tenacity for the uncovering of the truth in matters such as these. It means a lot. I'm speaking mostly for myself, but also for others too, who have that itch for adventure and for understanding more. And you guys do an amazing job, and I really appreciate you guys, and you guys mean a lot to me.
Oh man, thanks, brother. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, we're super thankful that whatever itch we're scratching is in the right spot, and people are been sending us a lot of love lately, a lot of messages lately. So Thank you, man. It's awesome. It's been a labor of love, and it's finally, I feel like after a couple of years, it's finally closing in on 100 episodes, and people are really starting to respond, and we love it. We love doing it, and
that's so good.
Who knew?
Yeah, I know.
Who knew?
It's amazing. It's amazing.
The big fella.
Yeah.
And you saw him, man.
Yeah,
you got to see him.
I did, and I think about him. It's never leaves you.
Yeah. Well.
That's good.
At least you don't, just don't lust after him.
I don't. Yeah, no. I mean,
unless you take your shirt off, he might come at you.
Maybe that's why he ran, right? Because I had a lot of unnatural body hair for an 11-year-old. So, maybe he felt threatened, and that's why he ran.
It could very well could have been.
That's the TikTok video. You're out there in your underwear looking for beans. And you got all this body hair, and then you have a hair down with Bigfoot. He looks at you, you look at him.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh, man.
Maybe he just thought you were like a little person, like a Bigfoot little person,
Maybe.
And Nate would have run into the fray.
Yeah, he would have.
But this guy was out of there.
Yeah, he loves the little people for sure.
He sure does.
Oh, my word. He does. He loves them.
I love it. Well, everyone out there listening to this podcast, go follow the Bean Wizard Official. It'll make you laugh. It'll make your day. Tell your wife we said hello.
Yes,
and
for sure.
Keep cranking out the hits, man.
Yeah, man, for sure. I will. So good.
All right, bud. Well, thanks for coming on Blurry Creatures.
Yeah, thank you for having me so much.
Justin.
Yeah. Thank you. Woo.
And stay blurry, my friend.
Roll that time, cop. Oh, what jubilation.
That is fantastic. You're the first. So you were the first guest that we've allowed to take the honors of rolling us out of the episode.
I'm gonna say this is when I heard that, I love that. That's my favorite part. One of my favorite parts is that phrase. And I was like, I just want to say that one time, and I got it. So thank you so much.
We're making dreams come true here.
You are. It's like Disneyland.
Yes. Just a lot hairier.
But blurry.
I feel like you need to do like a Gandalf quote too. I feel like I want a Gandalf quote so bad right now.
Well, you know what I say is, sometimes I have a wizard hat and I'll put it on. I'll be like, a wizard is never late, but he's always on beans. You know, something.
It's always on beans. I love it, dude.
It's all you need to be famous, Luke. We're in the wrong business. We're trying to make serious content. We just need to get a tinfoil hat and make a can of beans.
Dude, you're so much cooler than Mr. Bean, and it's not even close. So, in the bean realm, you're number one in our hearts and minds.
My word. You guys are making me blush.
Thanks, Justin.
Hey, no problem. Thank you guys. You have a wonderful night.
All right, buddy.
Yeah.
You too, man.
See you guys.
Bye.